Hi, welcome into the Irish NFL show. It's Sunday night. We have got to the very end of draft week. I am still alive. Thank you, Kyle Shanahan. Welcome in, Colin. Welcome in, Mark. Boys, we have a special guest. We're going to bring him right in. It's a guy who just signed a contract with the Giants today, free agent. He's here. We thought he wouldn't be here, but he's here. Brian, how's it going? You've come in last minute there.
I have indeed. The draft wasn't the only exciting thing this weekend. Sorry, guys. Last episode of Line of Duty. I couldn't give it up.
Well, hold on now. Don't spoil it for anybody for a start.
I won't spoil it for anybody. But it was to the wire, but I just about made it.
No problem at all. And that was an RTE or BBC, Brian? Was that BBC? Yeah. Sure, we'll just move on. Okay, right. Special guest this evening. First guest. We've got 4 guests, so we're going to bring this guy in. Big Titans fan from Ireland, Paul Hosford. Paul, welcome into the show, man. How's it going?
Not too bad, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Usually, Paul, I ask somebody on the show what Irish connections they have, but I'm quite stumped, to be honest with you, tonight. Welcome in. So Colin tells me, Paul, that you're a Titans fan.
Yeah, big Titans fan for the last 20 years. So.
How did you come to I suppose pick upon the Titans?
I suppose like a lot of people, when in Ireland, Madden was kind of the gateway. But when I started watching it, so when I was in first year in school, a couple of lads were big into Madden, so we'd play Madden, and that kind of graduates to watching NFL on a Sunday on Sky Sports, kind of getting the Sunday evening, getting the sitting room on a Sunday evening to watch the NFL. And my first year watching was 99, 2000. So, Eddie George, Steve McNair, and then I remember watching the Music City Miracle live. So I was always taken with the Titans because they had that really high octane offense, like loads of great players on D, guys like Javon Curse. But I was really taken with Kevin Dyson, the wide receiver. You'll remember from that Super Bowl, it was Kevin Dyson who was half a foot short. So I was always really taken with him. And that summer, my parents were going to Nashville. The first time anyone in the family had gone to the States, and they were going to Nashville for a conference. My dad was going to a conference, and they came back with a Dyson jersey. So I was like 13 or 14, and I was absolutely obsessed with this thing. Just wore it constantly. You know the old Reebok jerseys. So the numbers would kind of flake away.
Yeah.
And by the time it got thrown out, or by the time it was retired from the wardrobe, I think the 87 was kind of more of like a 31, and the Titans were kind of a Tyans. But you assume if you catch on to a team that are successful from the off or are decent from the off, you assume life's always going to be rosy, and that's not been the case. Some really bad seasons. The Jake Locker era wasn't great. The rotation of mediocre quarterbacks. The weird season when the Titans went 13-3 with Kerry Collins as the quarterback, which was an absolute mind blower. The complete criminal waste of Vince Young, the greatest college talent at quarterback ever for my money. Just the natural talent that the guy had. I still watch the Rose Bowl, the 06 Rose Bowl every now and then, because it's one, the most insane game of American football you'll ever see, but two, just to watch Vince Young in that game, particularly the fourth quarter, is just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, big Titans fan since. Managed to get over to a game in 2016, Thursday night game against the Jags. Absolutely hammered them. Managed to see the first career touchdown of Derrick Henry, and I tell my wife every time he's on the TV, I say, we saw his first TD, and she rolls her eyes and says, yeah, I know.
Paul, a frantic few days for everyone, any NFL fan with the draft. And I suppose looking at the Titans secondary last year, it was very vulnerable, and they let a lot of guys go during the offseason. Malcolm Butler went to Arizona. Adoree Jackson's gone to the Giants. So it didn't come as a surprise that they went cornerback in the first round. But Caleb Farley has had a lot of concerns. Arguably, they say he's the second best cornerback, maybe the first, depending on who you listen to in the draft. But yeah, people were kind of down on him because of his injury situation. Were you surprised he went that route in the end?
No, I think the thing about the draft is the prism that I always like to look at the draft through is you're either Jacksonville and you've got the chance to take a guy who can turn the whole franchise around in a really short period, or you're in the space where the Titans are, where you've been kind of good for the last couple of years. You're picking in the late teens to early 20s, and what you need to do is make the team better. So you're hanging around the playoffs, but you're not at that elite level. And this is a team that's only 2 years out of the AFC Championship, so there's obviously some talent there. But for me, the team had to get better. And like you said, the secondary last year was woeful. A really weird season where, you'd get to third down and you'd have absolutely no confidence that the defense was getting off the field. You're watching games where you're giving up 25 yards on 3rd and 17, and it just really, really strange after the season before having such a good defense. So I think one of the things, if you look at what the Titans have done in retooling that secondary, last year, 19 sacks. So you're getting to the quarterback less than once a game. If you're not getting to the quarterback, your defensive backs have to be able to cover, and they have to be able to cover for a long, long time. In the playoff game against the Ravens, there was a couple of times where Lamar Jackson had, you're talking 8 to 10 seconds, and that's an eternity. So what if you look at what they've done? Janoris Jackson is the big free agent in the secondary. Caleb Farley comes in, and then Elijah Moulton in the 4th round. So these are all great man guys who played a lot of man in college, Janoris Jenkins. So you look at these guys; they've all played a lot of man, good proven, man coverage guys. So obviously the thinking there is, if you're going to go man to man with your 3 top DBs, you're going to leave Byard over the top. And then you're just going to have 7 guys, and you're going to work out different ways of getting them to the QB, and that's it. You're basically saying we don't have an elite pass rusher. I don't know if there was one available, either in free agency or realistically available in free agency or the draft for the Titans. But they've obviously decided that if we can't get that one guy who's going to be a constant disruptive factor in the backfield, that we're going to be able to scheme 7 guys just coming at you in all different kind of manners. So that kind of linchpin, the basis of that is, have we got 3 guys who can cover forever? And with the likes of Farley, I think Farley, I've seen some grades grading it as a kind of a B, which is probably, if you're on that measurement scale, it's probably not unfair. For me, it's either an A or an F. It's going to go one of 2 ways. You're either going to get the Caleb Farley who we saw a couple of years ago, but before his back surgery, who is long and rangy and really, really quick and has explosive abilities around the ball, or you're going to get a guy who's just physically not able to do it. And if he's not able to do it, then it's a waste of a 1st round pick, especially when you look at a couple of the guys who were there. A lot of the Titans fans were really, really keen to go and get Elijah Moore or get a weapon for Tannehill after losing the likes of the Corey Davis or Johnny Smith or Adam Humphries.
Paul, look, you've been a Titans fan for 22 years, so I mean, yeah, from the ages of McNair, you lived through 2008 season, I think it was, with my favorite Thunder and Lightning pairing, Chris Johnson and Lindale White, and obviously Payne that year in the playoffs. But things are happier now. You've Mike Vrabel as head coach. It's not Jeff Fisher anymore. I think Vrabel hasn't had a losing season so far, and in the playoffs, you have actually beaten everyone that matters. I mean, you beat the Chiefs a couple of years ago, you beat the Ravens, and that Ravens-Titans rivalry is a sneaky good rivalry at this stage. I mean, you guys really don't like each other. Now with the attempt, obviously, to address the corner and obviously the secondary in the draft, which was a black hole for you last year, how confident, do you feel about continuing to build on the momentum of the last couple of years?
It depends. I suppose it depends on a few things. One, it depends on how good how good the Colts turn out to be next season. Which version of Carson Wentz they get. I think if you look at it generally, last year was an improvement. So 9-7, 9-7, 10-6. That's what you're looking to do year on year. I think the sample size on Ryan Tannehill now is completely big enough to say that he is a top-level quarterback. I was reminded before we came on air, Colin reminded me that I do have a tweet from the day of the Denver Broncos game, the 16-0 game, where Marcus Mariota was pulled and Ryan Tannehill was put in, and I tweeted, and I've left it there for posterity. People can go and see it. If Ryan Tannehill is the answer, we need to ask some different questions. Because if there's anyone on the planet who said that they thought that Ryan Tannehill, after being traded from the Dolphins to the Titans, was going to reach this level, I will go. I will build statues in their honor because of the things that they can foresee. Because none of us saw this come. So when you've got an elite quarterback or a guy who's in that conversation, and if you've got a running back like Derrick Henry, you always feel like you've got a shot. AJ Brown is kind of nudging himself into that conversation of top 15, top 10 wide receivers in the league. The concern, I suppose, is always that you put a lot of money in two guys on the offensive side, and are you going to be able to keep the band around? Losing Jonnu Smith and losing Corey Davis. Corey Davis was a strange one, because I think when his option wasn't picked up, there wasn't a whole lot of Titans fans who were not upset, but weren't, didn't understand the decision. He'd kind of blown hot and cold. One of these guys who, could give you a 100-yard game, but then could kind of go missing for the next three. And then last year has a career year in a contract year, and we see that all the time. I've always believed that he has elite level talent, but I don't know how well it's translated. Last season seemed to be, statistically is an outlier for him. Delighted that he got paid. Delighted that he seems to have found a new home. So I suppose your worry is you're rebuilding that offense or that defense that was really, really good 2 years ago. It was bad last season. You're given, I suppose, Vrabel has earned himself that benefit of the doubt that he can rebuild it, retool it, kind of rebuild it in his image. There's a couple of good signings there, Bud Dupree and Janoris Jenkins, and I suppose it really comes down to how, I suppose, different or how aggressive that defense comes out and is next season. Because the thing is, last season it always felt like unless the Titans score 35 points, they're going to be in a game. So you might see games where you're scoring 30 to 35 points and you're just not comfortable, and that's a really weird position to be in, a half eight on a Sunday evening where you're watching the game and you're going, okay, we've put up 50. Okay, if we can just get another 10, then I think we might be okay.
Yes, don't beat yourself up about Tannehill. Well, Lauren Tannehill didn't even believe that Ryan was the answer, so you go ahead.
Paul, look, I feel like we could talk to you about the Titans for the next 4 or 5 hours, but we'll have to get you on again maybe before the season starts. It's been great chatting to you, even just for the first time. We'll try and find that tweet as well, but just for now, man, thanks a million, and hopefully chat to you again soon.
Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
All the best, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much to Paul Hosford. You can search for him on Twitter. Great Irish account to follow as well. We're going to skip from the Titans to the Saints, and we're delighted to welcome Laurie Holder from The Athletic into the show live. Laurie, thank you for waiting. How are you?
I'm good. Look, I feel like we should be having, a beer or two, since you guys are, 10 p.m. or so in Ireland. I'm empty-handed. I mean, I just got finished the draft. I should probably use a drink, right? And I'm in New Orleans. What kind of fool am I?
Absolutely. Well, look, I couldn't ask the first guest just because he was in Ireland and he is Irish, but have you any Irish connections yourself?
No, I don't. I think somewhere along the line, I'm Irish. I participate in every Irish parade that we have in New Orleans, but half the crew might not even know where Dublin is. So, hey, we just like to party, parades. We basically do it Mardi Gras style, floats, throws, you name it. We do it in New Orleans, as you'd probably expect.
Yeah, I cannot recommend New Orleans highly enough. Have had the good fortune to spend time there on a couple of occasions, and it is party central. I suppose looking at the draft, interested in your take. I was reading Mel Kiper earlier. He's not particularly impressed by what the Saints did, but as somebody who covers the team closely, what's your own take on it?
Look, I think the first 3 picks, you look at them, and I could argue that they actually addressed 3 needs. Now, did they address them in the order you might have expected? Probably not. Look, Peyton Turner was someone I deemed to the Saints in round 2. Pete Werner, the linebacker, was someone I deemed to the Saints in maybe rounds 3 or 4. And of course, the Saints took Turner, the defensive end from Houston, in round 1, and Werner in round 2. And then it seemed like they kind of got the grade as far as our grades over at The Athletic. Paulson Adebo, the cornerback from Stanford, when you look at him, they took him at 76, and we actually had him at 76 in our rankings. And then, of course, people are definitely wondering about Ian Book, the quarterback from Notre Dame. How does he fit in? People think that the Saints maybe have overdrafted him. So you look at 3 of the 4 picks, and the impression that many people have here in New Orleans is that they overpicked from where they should have been. And so, look, the Saints, they have historically under Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, they have certainly drafted big time, say in 2006. That was the start of their Super Bowl run. And, of course, in 2017, when they were able to get players like Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara and Ryan Ramczyk and Marcus Williams. So I feel like some people will give them the benefit of the doubt, and yet at the same time, the last few drafts, they haven't really hit because they haven't really had to. So I think this is a circumstance where I think people might panic even more over this draft because people feel like these players need to come in and be able to play maybe more right away than the others, and people are definitely questioning that given where they selected some of these players.
Larry, can I just ask about the quarterback situation? Obviously, Drew Brees has finally retired, shall we say, after years of speculation. But the 2 quarterbacks that are left now, Taysom Hill, who is kind of a Swiss Army knife type of player. You know, he was used for special plays last year, and then he played quarterback when Brees was injured. And James Winston, who we'll say he's inconsistent at times. He has the attributes, but the interceptions kill him. Are the Saints fans comfortable that they're the 2 that will lead the team next year jointly, or do they believe there's one who will win out over the other in the end?
Yeah, they're going to go into this having one starter. And for right now, it is Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Do I think maybe the Saints entertained someone like Russell Wilson or someone like Deshaun Watson in the offseason when all the trade speculation was going on? I'm sure they entertained it, but they knew that the price tag was so high that they were not even going to be able to even be involved. They were not really interested in Matt Stafford, which I think is an interesting piece of the puzzle. From what I understand, they basically see Jameis Winston and Matt Stafford on the equal plane, and Jameis has the much larger upside. And so they feel like it's going to be one of the 2. Look, I don't think Ian Book gets involved in this race. But look, this is a 1-year tryout, really. Jameis is only under contract for 1 year. Taysom is only under contract for 1 year. So if this thing blows up, we're going to be revisiting a quarterback debate next offseason. But look, I anticipate Jameis Winston winning the job. You're hearing all the right things from Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis and from Jameis Winston this offseason. And yet, like you said, he still has to prove it. Look, he has all the talent there is. Decision-making has to come in to play. Do I think Sean Payton can win with him? I think he can. Look, they went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback last year when Drew Brees was hurt. They went 3-1 with Taysom Hill as a quarterback when Drew Brees was hurt this year. Do I think Jameis Winston is a better talent than both of those guys? Yes. But Jameis Winston is also a freelancer. He'll take chances. He'll take risks. So this is definitely a race. I definitely deem Jameis Winston as the favorite. But we might be having the same conversation next offseason. Who's going to be the guy to follow the guy who followed Drew Brees? So we'll have to see.
Well, his book is a 4th-round pick. You know, it could be fast forward 12 months' time, and they forget about the fact that he is a 4th-round pick, and he could get that opportunity if it doesn't play out the way they hope during this season coming.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at it in the sense that it's a rare thing that a mid-round pick comes in and takes over and wins the starting job. I think that Russell Wilson was probably the last one I can really remember off the top of my head to be win the job and then actually be successful as a mid-round quarterback. So it's really a rare thing. And that's why a lot of teams, they draft quarterbacks so highly that maybe the grade doesn't match, but quarterback is so valuable, they have to do it. And so I'm not going to totally discount Book. He's kind of the same sort of ilk as Drew Brees. Obviously, I'm not saying he's Drew Brees, but he's the same sort of ilk, size, productive, a winner in college. So you never know. Like I'm not going to totally throw it out the window, but for now, I think it'd be a hard time for Ian Book to come in and win. But like you said, what if we come next offseason and they really like him? I don't know. So again, this is a 1-year thing. Let's see what happens. And I don't think Sean Payton would hesitate if he's not pleased with the quarterback room after this year, making a trade. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they went hard after Russell Wilson next offseason. I really wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
Well, Larry, they might hope he develops like Dak. Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick, obviously, for the Cowboys. That's the dream, of course. But look, seriously, keep Ian Book in the mix, just because for the tabloid writers, there's so many stories that can be written about, turning the new chapter, turning a page or turning a new leaf from Drew Brees and stuff like that. I mean, look, from the outside looking in, it looks like Taysom Hill's a bit of a comic book, and Jameis Winston is a book, all right, but it's more like Fahrenheit 451. He's going to burn you at some point. So maybe you need the rookie to come in there. All seriousness, though, obviously Taysom Hill's now the 140 million man, and the Saints are, quite frankly, getting out of cap hell this season. It looks a little bit like a rebuild in terms of just clearing the cap space, clearing obviously the debt that they've had to pay on Drew Brees' contract and other things. I mean, how Mickey Loomis does it, I don't actually know, because the capology going on, the capologism going on is something impressive. But, if you're a rookie, you're probably going to play because they need some cheap people there. Does it feel like, obviously it's changing in the guard season, but does it feel like kind of we clear the decks and then we figure it all out really for a better run in 22-23?
Yeah, look, the Taysom Hill number is bogus. It's not real. I mean, he's under a 1-year deal. And they're using it to spread out the cap hit that he would have taken this year. So it's funny how they did it, but it's just comical. But when you look at what happened to the Saints roster, I mean, they have a lot of star power, but everyone on the next, like say, second tier level, they lost a lot. And I think that's a good way to look at it, that they need their draft picks from 2018, 2019, 2020, this year. They need those picks to develop and be a bigger part of the puzzle. Someone like Marcus Davenport, someone like Traquan Smith. I mean, they need those pieces. Even just look at last year's draft. What about Zach Bond? They need Adam Troutman to be their top tight end this year. And so it's something that they went all in, obviously, Super Bowl or bust with Drew Brees. And now this was the price they have to pay. Kind of the middle tier of their roster, they've got to replenish with Trey Hendrickson leaving, Malcolm Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Sheldon Rankins, so many other players I'm probably leaving out right now. So it's definitely more of a rebuild in the sense that I don't think they're anywhere near the favorite talk like we would say in the NFC or even the NFC South right now. They're going to be fighting to make the playoffs and then go forward. But because you're right, they have to replenish, just like they did in 2017. All those players were cheap for 4 years, and they're having to pay Kamara. They're going to have to pay Lattimore at some point. They have a franchise tag on Marcus Williams. They're going to have to pay Ryan Ramczyk. So they're going to have to pay for those guys. And some of the veteran high-priced guys, maybe like a Cam Jordan, Teron Armstead, maybe they only have a year or two left, and they've kind of have to kind of clear out that generation of the Saints.
Absolutely. And look, Laurie, you've covered the Saints for a considerable amount of time now, in that sense. You've actually covered the Saints longer than I've been an NFL fan. I think I've been a fan for about 13 years. But watching, as a non-Saints fan, watching Drew Brees walk off that field, the end of his career, it was almost unfair because he didn't get that send-off. He deserved the full stadium, the people in the crowd, etc., and maybe the ending that he wanted. Was there any point last year in which you thought that, he might come back? Because even 3 weeks after the Super Bowl, we were sitting on the show going, could you imagine if he did come back one more year? But obviously he's retired now.
I thought for certainty he was going to retire. I didn't pay attention to any of the delay. That was more about trying to figure out money, this, that, and the other. Maybe they could throw a celebration somehow, some way. And then Drew Brees, he retires on the day he signed with the Saints, an anniversary. So I didn't buy he was coming back at all. Injuries certainly caught up to him in the last 2 seasons. He admits that he was only healthy maybe 1 week last season. So I think everyone in the building knew he was going to leave. And yet, if he said, hey, I'm coming back, it's not like they can say no. It's different in that sense where, Tom Brady, he had to leave. Peyton Manning, he had to leave. I don't think Drew Brees was going to – I think they were going to let him leave when he was ready to leave, and he was ready to leave. So, look, I think that was in the sense that this would have been something that would have been a total stunner if he would have came back, but I wasn't buying it. Look, I had a story pre-written that he was right after the season. I probably had it 2 months, and we're all sitting here. All right, when can I run the story? When can we do it? So no, there was no sense that Drew was going to return. But you're right, it was really depressing as a New Orleanian and if you're a Saints fan. I mean, he's just walking off the field, looking up, and there's 3,000 people there. So it's certainly something that, for someone who was so iconic, the way he went out, it was such a kind of a whimper. And, look, I know they're going to throw some big shebang once the season gets started. But still, the way it went down, he lost to Tom Brady in the Dome after they had beaten him twice. Tom Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl. The whole scenario was just a big bummer, really, for Drew Brees.
Yeah, it was certainly unfortunate, but I'm sure, as you say, there will be that big party when things get going again. Larry, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. You can find Larry on Twitter at Larry Holder. He also is a brilliant columnist with The Athletic. Check out his work there. And maybe we can have you on again later in the summer as we build up to the new season.
Absolutely. And if I don't have a cocktail next time, throw something at the screen. Like, this is my fault. I totally failed you guys. But no, great show. Appreciate you guys having some interest in the Saints in Ireland. And no, really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Larry. All the best, man.
Thank you, Larry.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. Larry Holder from The Athletic. Check out The Athletic. Obviously, you can get it in the UK, Ireland as well. You can get free trials, cheap monthly ones as well. Brian's disappeared, but he's actually here as well. Thank you very much to Larry. Welcome back, Brian. We're going to go straight into our next guest. This guy here is going to love this because all he talks about is the Patriots. So we're going to bring on Jim McBride, who is a Patriots beat reporter for the Boston Globe. Jim, I love the name. It's very Irish for a start. So welcome in.
Thank you very much. It's to be here. My children are Seamus and Caroline, so you like that too.
I think you've answered the first question. I mean, I'm presuming you have. I was going to ask you, have you any Irish connections, but I think you definitely have in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Roots in Donegal and Cork. So, yeah.
Oh, well, delighted to hear the roots in Cork. That's my home county, Jim. So welcome in. I suppose, look, the first, my first question could be, which was the bigger name in this, draft for the Patriots? Was it the reemergence of Nike the dog, or was it Mac Jones? I suppose, look, the Mac Jones pick. Your take on that.
Yeah, I think this is the guy that they wanted all along. And if they didn't have a shot at him, they were going to wait and draft someone in the second round or the third round. I don't think that, certainly they didn't have a shot at the two big guys, Lawrence and Zach Wilson. But of those other three guys, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, I think they felt like Mac Jones was the most NFL ready at this point, a guy that's really smart, that could come in and learn this offense. As Coach Belichick said on a Thursday night, he doesn't see him having a problem processing this information and absorbing it all, which is, quite frankly, a pretty daunting task when you think about that playbook that Josh McDaniels has designed over the last 2 decades. So they felt really comfortable with him, really up until Tuesday or so. I didn't think they had a shot at him because I thought Mac Jones was the 49ers guy. I thought that's, why they traded up to number 3 to get him. But then you started hearing the rumors that they were really enamored with Trey Lance. So when that happened, I remember saying to a colleague, if they take Trey Lance at 3, Mac Jones could fall all the way to the Patriots without a problem, because the only other team that I thought would be looking for a quarterback and be aggressive was the Bears, and they had Justin Fields on their board. So once that happened, I really started writing the story Thursday night. Once they picked Trey Lance, I started typing my Mac Jones story because I was that confident that he was going to fall to them.
Jim, we were fortunate to interview Jim Nagy last week, and he was raving about Barmore. He felt he was a first-round talent, and he felt he would have went in the back end of the first round. So for the Patriots to move up very quickly on the second day, I think obviously that was the general consensus within the front office there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill only went to one pro day this year, and it was the Alabama Pro Day. No surprise with his tight relationship with Nick Saban. And I think the mission was to see Mac Jones, see the ball come out of his hands, but they couldn't help but notice Barmore. He's just a massive human being, moves really quickly, and this is my devious mind thinking, but the way that Tom Brady gets really uncomfortable is when there's pressure up the middle. You think about those two giant Super Bowls that they lost. The pressure up the middle was something that he really does not like. He's very uncomfortable with it. He can kind of feel that pressure off the edge, but the middle pass rush is something that he can't stand. And I think Barmore adds that to the Patriots. And, they have to play Tom Brady this year. So there's Bill thinking, I'm going to get a guy that's making Tom Brady really uncomfortable. So I think they were really happy with that pick. To get the top interior lineman in the second round, usually those guys are, off the board earlier than that. I think it was definitely worth spending the 2 4th-rounders to move up and grab the guy that they really thought was somebody that can slot in and contribute, maybe not immediately, but by mid-season maybe.
Yeah, Jim, Brian's a Giants fan, so he definitely remembers those 2 Super Bowls and brings them up.
Boy, I had a big smile, Jim.
Times. Yeah. I actually called Mac Jones. Sorry, I was going to say I called Mac Jones to the Patriots. Sorry. I called him the show Mac Jones to the Patriots back in November. I just thought it was an ideal fit, almost Brady-esque in the sense of played for a big conference, played in a big conference, played for a big university, and obviously. And on the night, we were doing a live draft show, so it was a bit weird for us, or for me anyway, thinking that Jones was going to the 49ers and then having to wait 12 picks just to see if it all, beautifully came true. I could ask you a real fan question here, like where the hell are the bloody wide receivers, which was the other fault in the Patriots draft. But actually, Jim, one of the things that stood out to me is Belichick rarely divulges too much to the press. But I thought actually his conference, obviously when he started off without you guys asking a question and said, Cam's our quarterback, like straight out, it was like, I know you guys are going to ask, I'm just getting it out of the way. But he did disclose something that means a lot to Patriots fans. Said that Ernie Adams was drafted with the Patriots, and Patriots fan know him well. For anybody that doesn't know Ernie Adams, he's the Belichick's Belichick, the genius in the background. Brought Belichick in ostensibly to the Giants by recommending him to Ray Perkins. Was the inspiration behind Buzz Bissinger going down to Odessa and running Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. He's a bit of a Machiavellian genius in the background, some would say. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's a bit unusual for Bill to willingly give up information on the inside.
Yeah, so and he kind of stopped short of saying that Ernie was going to give up all his responsibility. So I think my gut feeling is that this will be Ernie's last year with the team, and he's going to go through the season and do what he normally does, but. Because he's been so instrumental in their draft preparations and really came up with their coding system and their way of ranking and grading players, that I think Bill wanted to take that opportunity yesterday to let everyone know that, hey, this is the guy that revolutionized how we scout in this building. I think if he waited till the end of the season, it might have been kind of a footnote. Ernie Adams, longtime coach, assistant, draft analyst, but this way. He got to shed a lot of light on Ernie, deservedly so. So I think, it probably will be his last year, but he's probably still going to be at every practice this year. He's going to be in the press box with that direct line to Bill during the games. Ernie's the guy that tells Bill, hey, throw the challenge flag. We've seen the replay, but his, as Bill said yesterday, his contributions to the Patriots have been historical. I mean, going back to 1975 when Chuck Fairbanks was the coach. Amazingly encyclopedic mind. I'm on the Patriots Hall of Fame committee, and Ernie's on that too. And generally speaking, those meetings we just kind of let Ernie talk and we listen to him, and you kind of vote the way he leans, because he has such an influence and he just knows everything. He's certainly going to be missed. Just a real football guy. It's funny, you talk to a lot of players on the Patriots and you ask about Ernie Adams and they'll say, we don't know what he does, but when he talks, man, we better listen.
Well, look, Jim, you're the first beat writer to come on the show, mainly in the Patriots landscape for us. So I'm just going to ask you, because it has some sort of Irish connection. Whenever Tom Brady announced he was leaving the Patriots, it obviously was that week over here when the COVID stuff was hitting, but it was on St. Patrick's Day. And for us, it's probably, I mean, for Patriots fans, for NFL fans, it now is going to remain like a landmark moment every St. Patrick's Day for an NFL fan over here. But how shocked were you when that happened? Obviously, Tom went on to win it this year, and I'm sure Patriots fans and reporters are delighted. But when that happened, what was the feeling like that morning? Because it must have been a frenzy in terms of the media.
Well, it was horrible for several reasons. It was also the day that they locked Boston down, basically. So nobody could run out to the bars and drown their sorrows because they were all closed because of COVID. That was the day, that our mayor closed everything down. So it was rough. I think a lot of people, had been bracing for it about a week prior. After the Patriots lost to Tennessee in the playoff game, you kind of got that sense that could be the last game. And, it's a terrible thing because the last pass he threw in Gillette Stadium was a pick six to Logan Ryan. And, I think a lot of people remember that, and it's unfortunate, but it was a tough day. There were some diehard fans who thought, this is never going to happen. Tom Brady's never going to leave. And when it did, it was like a smack in the face reality. So it was tough. But I don't think it was, this Bill versus Tom narrative that's been playing nationally. The local people kind of knew that this was an amicable divorce. It was time for both of them to move on. The Patriots certainly weren't going to commit $50 million to Tom for 2 years. And Tom, I think, looked at the roster and said, the weapons just aren't there anymore. Time for me to move on too. So it was definitely devastating, but people got over it kind of quick. They got reminded of it in February when Tom won yet another Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. But they're kind of looking past it now. I think they were more upset that Gronk actually unretired and went to the Buccaneers than Tom actually leaving.
Jim, it has been a lot of fun to get your insights into the Patriots draft, and we'd love to have you on again in the lead up to the new season. Obviously, after training camp, and we see how all those the draft picks and the players picked up during that free agency, that frantic free agency period, are beginning to settle in. So we just want to say thank you, and if you make it over to this little green island, we'd love to grab some Guinness with you, or if the Irish NFL show makes it over to Boston, maybe we can catch up with you there.
I would love it. I'd love to come on anytime. So it's great to be here.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks a million, Jim. All the best, man.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Great to hear from Jim McBride at Globe. Jim McBride, check it out. I think he's now going to be our Patriots correspondent. I mean, Mark, I think, is happy enough there. Happy enough, Mark, yeah.
Why can we only talk to Jim about the Patriots for 10, 15 minutes, Michael? We should do a 4-hour show devoted around that, no? No?
We have been on the air this week for 1, 2, 3, 4.
We didn't even get an
We've been on the
opportunity.
air a lot. I tell you what, I would actually
14
when we do
hours.
go on again. I mean, one of the funny things you hear from all the Patriots beat writers, and you hear this quite a lot, is that Belichick comes across as such a grumpy bugger in all those press conferences, and he does, because he hates it. Like, genuinely, he's like, "Oh, I'm contractually obliged to be here," but he obviously, from time to time, you ask him, I know, about left-footed punters, which he has an affinity for, and you'll get a history of the game about it. But he's actually quite funny, Belichick, in those press conferences as well. Especially, we give a death stare or two, but he can be quite funny with those journalists. And I've heard from some of the beat writers before about some of the great stories and things he's come out with. So I'd love to get Jim's best Belichick story. It's been amusing from time to time. It's like a Jerry Jones story. Everyone has one.
I seen Jerry Jones' grandson made the pick yesterday for the Cowboys. My wife was like, "Hold on, this is on all night." It was like the most random announcements. I've actually got a lovely video for Patriots fans if you do want to see it. It was, I think, what Colin talks about at the start. It's Bill's
it Tom
dog
Brady
yesterday.
picking up the trophy for Tampa Bay or something, Michael? Are you just going to try and talk
No,
me?
that's been done.
What do you think here in the 7th round, huh? All right, got it.
Dear God, just look at that smile. Oh,
I think he's
God.
found a way that he'll enjoy maybe doing press conferences. Maybe that's what we're going to see for the 2021 is he'll just bring Nike into every single press conference.
Why is his dog called Nike? What's going on?
Greek god of speed, so maybe it's some connection in relation to that. But at the same token, if he brought Nike to the press conference and someone asked a stupid question, he could set the dog on them as well. So no, hey, it could work.
That's where Mark's mind goes.
Looked like he was working remotely back at home again, Mark. Yeah, doubt he's bringing the dog into the front office at Gillette. It was unfortunate because we didn't have more time with Jim because I would have loved to ask him around Julian Edelman's retirement. We didn't even get an opportunity to really discuss that because that merits a conversation in itself.
I still don't want to believe that happened. Please, let's just imagine that never happened. Okay.
Well, it happened. It happened.
You'll know in September when you've got the two other new wide receivers catching the ball or dropping the ball, should we say.
We've got a guest coming in a couple of minutes. However, we have prizes to give away.
We do indeed.
And we're delighted to let everybody know that I have won both jerseys and both caps. Let's get. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Be like the episode of Father's Head, was it, with the number 11? You know, it's not unusual for the person who organised the competition to win the competition.
Or it's like that GA club in like Live or something. Your boy had the thing in his jeans and pulls it out. Yeah, there we go. Here are the winners. Archie Stewart and Oisin Garrity have both won an NFL draft cap and a shirt of their choice. Within reason. Do not be requesting a €300 unbelievable player. I think it's like €99 max. But yeah, boys, congratulations. Archie Stewart, Oisin Garrity. We will be in touch at some point when this madness ends. 14 hours this week. Yeah.
Now here they come with the TJ Husmanzada request on the jersey. Yeah. Longest name possible.
I have no idea who these guys support.
Our last winner was a Patriots fan. I can't recall who our winner was the previous time, but yeah, we had the Patriots hat go out in the past fortnight to the winner of that cap, and they were nice enough to put it up on their social media page. So congratulations to the guys, and yeah, we'll organise that in due course during the week, and should have the jerseys within a week and a half.
Absolutely. Michael, somebody responded to your question. Oliver O'Brien said, I imagine the reason Bill Belichick's dog is called Nike is because Nike was a Greek goddess who personified victory. So I don't know if that's Mark's burner account or just somebody who shares Mark's ideas. But Oliver O'Brien, yes, in fairness, he probably... he's taken over. Is he officially the winningest coach, Mark, at this point? Or has he still a way to go?
He's got even if you combine playoff victories, he's got a little way to go to catch up with Hallis and Schuler. He's still number 3. Schuler, I think, is on 347 wins, and Belichick is on 317, if I remember correctly, in terms of regular season. Yeah, This is why the funny thing is, Belichick said he'd never go past 70 like Marv Levy, and obviously he's 69 now, and it doesn't look like he's stopping. So maybe you got something wrong there.
I think if anything, he's been re-energized by a former player winning the Super Bowl and having the opportunity to bring in more players during free agency to give him another fair crack at the whip.
Hopefully, he gets his 9th ring, Brian.
Well, we've seen his face there. I mean, it was terrifying, that smile. But Mac Jones, a quarterback, it's going to be a very interesting year. I can't wait for the Sunday shows where we've got Mark trying to convince us that Mac Jones is the next Peyton Manning or something, or Tom Brady. So I'm looking forward to it. We're waiting on Dave Burkett to come in to talk about the Lions, a team column that we don't talk too much about in the show, and I think we need to improve on that. Were you impressed with the Lions draft, or?
We are making an effort, I suppose, to try to get around to as many of the teams as we can. We've been reaching out to a lot of the teams and beat writers, and I suppose it'll be interesting to hear Dave's take. I think obviously, look, their first pick probably they didn't expect. I know that. from reading up on some of them, there's some thinking that maybe they a bit like some good picks, some maybe who didn't work out so well. I think the consensus that I have seen across the experts is that the Chargers appear to be the big winners from the draft. But hey, Super Bowls aren't won in May.
I think Dave's ready now. Dave, you want to give us a thumbs up, we'll bring you in. Awesome. Here we go. Dave Burkett joins the show. Fantastic to have Dave on the show. Lions beat writer for the Detroit Free Press. Dave, welcome in.
How you doing, man? How's everything?
It's going good. I've never been to Detroit, so we ask everybody this question at the start. Any Irish connections yourself, Dave?
Absolutely. I got a lot of family in Ireland, like extended family. I've been there one time myself when the Lions played in London a couple years ago. My family came with me and we went to Ireland for a few days after. So
awesome.
Spent a few days there, flew home, landed, and that's when the Lions fired Martin Mayhew and Tom Milan. So that's my story. Fired him while I was on the plane ride home. So.
Ooh.
That's a good story. I like that you built in the time after the London game. Definitely, we would be encouraging people to do that. But I suppose the Lions were intriguing to a lot of people coming up to Thursday and what they might do, and there was all sorts of stories about which way they might go. It ends up being Penei Sewell. What are your thoughts on that first pick?
Yeah, look, I think it was the right pick for the Lions. I mean, the way I saw the draft, the way I think a lot of people saw the draft, including the Lions, was that outside of the quarterbacks and however many quarterbacks you sort of threw in that blue chip group, there were really three elite, position players in the draft. And that was, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, and Penei Sewell. And I think for the Lions to get one of those guys at number 7 and a guy that they really wanted, a guy that fits their culture and the way they want to build, nothing but good things to say about that pick. I think 20 years old, he's got a chance to be a really good player in the future.
Dave, I just want to go back a couple of months ago. As a Giants fan last year, when Joe Judge did his first press conference, the enthusiasm for Giants fans was straight away that they potentially had the right head coach. Dan Campbell's initial press conference was entertaining, shall we say, in terms of biting kneecaps and doing this, and we're going to be a team on the field that you're playing against. Just a general consensus from the Lions fans, are they feeling the love at the moment with the new coach?
Yeah, I don't know how it played over there in Ireland. I know, some people here stateside didn't like it, maybe it didn't resonate with them, but in Detroit it certainly did. I think Dan won that press conference, and by and large the first 3 months on the job for him and Brad have been good. I mean, no one thinks the Lions are going to win 12 games next year or this thing is going to happen overnight, but the one thing that I think Dan Campbell has done is he's been himself, and that's allowed the people on this team to sort of be themselves, or them to not shy away from people with personalities in the draft on Twitter. I'm sorry, in the draft and free agency, that sort of thing. And so I think that helps, right? When you can be yourself, that just helps you, whatever your job is, achieve at the highest level. And that too often wasn't the case with the Lions. So, there'll be a learning curve, but I think Dan is, he's got this thing at least pointed in the right direction.
Dave, I mean, look, the Lions are probably one of the most snake-bitten franchises in the NFL. I mean, you look at two of your most transcendent players of all time, both retired early, Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. They've never made the Super Bowl. And now the greatest quarterback they've probably ever had in their franchise, they've traded him, in a cap-cutting measure, I know, and obviously picked up some assets for him, but it's almost like a kind of a Ray Bork trade, kind of, trying to be kind to him and give him a chance somewhere, it almost feels like. Is there any hope? We've got a lot of Lions fans in Europe, a lot of Lions fans in Ireland here. Is there any hope at the end of the tunnel for them? Or is it, they've got Jared Goff as the quarterback, for Christ's sake. This is going to be painful, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't expect miracles in 2021. I think Jared Goff is the type of guy that, he's better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, but he's probably not, the guy that's really just going to lead you to a Super Bowl, even though he's been there before. So, I don't think the Lions are 2-15 bad next year, but I think maybe they're a 6-win team, somewhere in that sort of realm. So they're still very much in the early stages of this building process. And that's why I say, you know, I think Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, I think they've got good people in place to lead this, and they're pointed in the right direction. But it's at the end of the day about getting the right players and them producing on the field like, you know, they can. So early stages are good, baby steps so far, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Shout out to Roar of the Lions UK podcast who are joining in and have retweeted. There's a lot of Lions fans watching this. So obviously, guys, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I like it. I like to see how the last time I was over there in London, every time I'd run into a Lions fan, I'd ask them how they became a Lions fan. I got some crazy stories. So it's awesome to hear some of the the fans from overseas. They've
literally just replied saying "Gotta love" at Dave Burkett. You've probably seen that as well. But Dave, guys like Rakeem Boyd, Jerry Jacobs picked up in unrestricted free agency yesterday. Was there anybody else that we haven't mentioned that stood out to you in the draft for the Lions?
Well, I think in the draft, look, obviously Penei Sewell is the headliner, and I think both the defensive linemen they took on day 2, there's a shot that they can be contributors next fall. But to me, the I don't know if it's a sleeper pick or whatever, but maybe the guy that I like the value that they got the most was Amon-Ra St. Brown, the receiver they picked up in round 4. It's a position they need. It's a guy that I thought, was going to go a full round higher. I do some sort of scenarios every year and mocking like their first, 3 rounds. And I gave him to the Lions in one of my early 3rd round, predictions. And so I thought he fits. I got a Golden Tate comp on him from a scout, which, Lions fans will like. So I think he's a guy that I like to draft. I think he in particular is a guy that maybe has a chance to outproduce his draft slot.
Dave, I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to this one, but just wondering, do you know, have Michael Brockers and Jared Goff been in the same room together again as yet?
Yeah, I think, I'm trying to think if it was Brockers. He said, he apologized to Jared. He said it wasn't, it sort of wasn't what he meant, to say. I don't know that if you can say the words were taken out of context since it was on video, right? But, so yeah, and those two by all accounts are, had a pretty good relationship in LA. So, Brocker said it was a case where he just, for those who missed it, he said, the Rams traded up a level when they got, Matthew Stafford. And then all of a sudden, Brockers was traded to Detroit. So he was back with Goff. And he said, it was just a case of TMZ catching him in the airport, him trying to pump up his team and his fans. And so, look, I think most people in the NFL would agree Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. But as I said, Goff is, I think the Lions could do worse at the position. I think he's a very serviceable bridge guy, if nothing else.
Sorry, guys.
You're on mute, Brian.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. Dave, having brought in Goff and then come free agency, I suppose they allowed a primary receiver once he didn't play that much last year. Kenny Golladay was their main man at wide receiver, and they decided against the franchise tag. But did that come as a surprise?
Is this a Giants question or a Lions question for you? Aren't you the Giants fan? Right?
Yeah, combination of both. Then. Combination of both.
No. Look, I think that's a good receiver, by the way. Yeah, so I think it's a good pickup for your Giants. But I'm a little surprised they did tag him just because, I thought, and it wasn't.
Oh dear God!
We've just lost Dave and discussed.
He was asked the question about the Giants, but he probably went, "You know what? I'm just going." That was a joke. That was a joke.
That's the first person that's called you out.
I leave that to you.
That's the first person that's called you out on it.
Here he is. He's back.
It wasn't going down the joint.
Dave, we were just joking there because Brian's a Giants fan that he asked the Giants question and you just thought no.
Called him out.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, I genuinely wasn't leaning towards the Giants. I just felt it was a surprise that they didn't tag
connection there for a second. No, I think Golladay. It didn't totally surprised me that the Lions let him go. I signed him or tagged him with the intent to trade him. That's still a big position of need for the Lions. You just don't have a lot of, playmakers there. All the guys are on 1-year deals or young guys. Part of the reason why I think it's going to be tough for Jared Goff to sort of establish himself as the quarterback for the future, because this offense didn't have a lot of weapons there. So Lions will miss Kenny Galladay, and I think your Giants will enjoy what they get out of him.
Dave, now that Brian's depressed you a bit and tried to sneak in the fact that Kenny Golladay left as well, I just wanted to say, look, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate this is a mad week for you and for all the beat writers involved. We'd love to talk more about the Lions and not the Giants, and maybe we might ask you if you're free to come on again some other time later in the summer when training camp's gone through and we're seeing how that new team with their new coach, new quarterback, and new general manager are all gelling. But for now, I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. For all Lions fans out there, you already know him, but it's at Dave Burkhead. Not only do you find him in the Detroit Free Press, but also, Dave, you're a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, I believe. So we should definitely ask you some questions about that next time if you're able to join us. And I think we lost him again, Michael.
I think we lost him, but you know what? If you can hear us, Dave, thanks a million for your time, man. Appreciate you. And that just awesome to get him on. Hopefully we can talk some Lions after. But yes, that's it. I'm just going to type. If somebody wants to talk for 30 seconds, I'm just going to type to Dave and say thanks to him.
Well, I was going to ask Dave about how he felt about Carl Van Noy leaving Detroit and coming to New England and stuff like that a few years ago. But, I just thought it might be a bit inappropriate and not a Lions question, Brian.
My question was a legitimate question. I asked him about their main wide receiver that's been let go. I haven't been offered a contract the year before and not signing it. And that was the only reason I was asking that question.
Does anyone have Mark? I was saying that by all consensus, the Chargers are the consensus winners of the draft. Any takeaways from you on the week just gone?
No, I would wholeheartedly concur, Colin. I think the Chargers won a fair bit of free agency as well, and they've built nicely. But the point, and I think we called it out the other night, or you particularly said it, is the talent is never an issue with the Chargers. They've always had the talent. It's that when they can coalesce that all together into a working team and not shoot themselves in the foot. Raiders raided, and I still think they had a bizarre draft. I think a lot of teams will be very happy. The Bears will be happy and getting their quarterback. The Patriots are happy and getting their quarterback. But as always, let's look at it in 3 years' time. We see some of those late round picks develop and we see who actually performed on the field. That's the key.
Brian, any final words after 7 days of coverage? Any final thoughts after draft week?
No, it's been a very enjoyable week. The great thing about this is we're doing it every night. I think we enjoy each other's company and we've put great shows together. So we've had some really good guests this week, and obviously the pinnacle of the week was our show on Virgin Media Sports, which was really enjoyable. But the draft is over now, and this is where the difficult period starts for every fan, because now we go through a phase of having very little activity in the NFL, with the exception of the schedule, which is due out on Wednesday week, and I think we're planning to have a reasonably good show, a few days thereafter.
Let's see. Colin, what's your one takeaway from draft week?
I suppose I'm just intrigued to see how Trey Lance will do in that Kyle Shanahan system. They're talking about keeping Jimmy G around. I'm interested to see whether that will be the case or whether they'll move on from him. But I don't think you can give up that many picks, move up that far, bring a guy in at number 3, and sit him for the entirety of the season.
Excellent. Mark, you've no final words, no?
I slán that, I guess. What do you want me to say?
I think for me, it's going to be really interesting watching this back in a year and seeing how well Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields and Mac Jones all have done as quarterbacks. Were teams right to move to just pass Justin Fields and Mac Jones? Time will tell, but it's been a great week. We've got there over 14 hours. Adam Rank, Jim Nagy, 3 beat writers, including the Irish NFL Network, D Orlando, a special in Virgin Media Sport, 6 hours live on Thursday night. live on Friday morning, live on Friday night, live on Saturday night, and live on Sunday night. Boys, it's been a pleasure, and I guess I'll see you again next Friday, and to everybody who's watching as well. Thanks a million, and see you soon. Cheers, boys.
Thank you.
Good night and good luck.
Hey everybody, welcome into the Irish NFL show. Can you believe weeks after Tom Brady gets his 7th Horcrux, we are finally at draft week, and our first guest on draft week is none other than Adam Rank, NFL Network.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. Listen, I move heaven and earth for you guys.
That the draft starts in Mobile, Alabama.
Most certainly, guys. Thank you all for having me on the Irish NFL Network.
Hey, welcome into Draft Night Live on the Irish NFL show. We're minutes from the Jaguars being on the clock. Can you believe we're here? The coffee is here.
It looks like Aaron Rodgers might well be leaving the Green Bay Packers.
It's struggling.
Imagine how the Packers fans are feeling right now.
And you can imagine how I'm feeling here. We are on the verge. We are seconds away. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson.
Right? You got a leg workout tomorrow.
The New York Jets select Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU.
Trey Lance. Oh.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely, completely understandable. The guy, I can understand why Kyle Shanahan fell in love with this guy. He is sensational. He has everything you want.
Kyle Pitts, boys. Oh, Jamar Chase. They go wide receiver. Jalen Waddle.
Fastest player in the draft, Michael.
Penei Sewell. So they don't go with a quarterback. Penei Sewell for this franchise is probably one of the most underrated picks in the top 15 in this draft. Penei Sewell.
Colin, I only counted that. I'm not counting that you won't pick a quarterback, counting the fact that you might look at Mac Jones, potentially he's the better quarterback, because we've seen it tonight where for months on end we've said, okay, the first two are given and the third is a given in the sense it's a quarterback. It's going to, then all of a sudden it was Mac Jones. What's to say that the Broncos might not pick Mac Jones? Here comes, no, it's not Roger.
I'm not doing it again. Here comes Roger. Here he comes. The Denver Broncos select
Patrick Surtain, cornerback. Oh my God.
The boys, I'll be back in 2 minutes. I can't.
Thanks for that. Yeah, that was to be expected.
Devonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, another player from Alabama, boys, and this guy honestly is for real.
Yes, the Giants are going to move back to 20. They're getting the 5th round pick this year. They're getting the number 1 pick from the Bears next year, and the 4th round pick from the Bears next year.
It's no longer save the Chicago one, it's feed the Chicago one. Is that it?
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields goes to the Chicago Bears. A stunning trade sees Chicago get their man. Micah Parsons is the pick for the Cowboys. Colin, what's your thoughts on Micah Parsons?
Parsons is an absolute stud. I mean, he's just a phenomenal linebacker.
It has to be Cuddy, but just don't be surprised if it's somebody that you think.
21 sacks last season. They need help there. It's kind of like, if only we hadn't traded away Khalil Mack. Like,
here we go. Oh, Alex Leatherwood, Alabama tackle. What a big reach. People felt he would go.
Alex Leatherwood. Tweeted number 9. I was stunned. I'm not stunned here. The Raiders are going to Raider.
Giants haven't had a predominantly defensive end for 10 years since we won the Super Bowl, and it's pretty much a sack by committee team. So it's a very interesting week. To me, it's a bit of a reach at 20. You know, there's people mutiny. He would have went bottom end of the first, early seconds, but I'll let you lads make a run at this one.
Oh.
Way!
Sweet Jesus. Here, did you see what happened with Jeff Reinbold? No.
I must have missed it, mate. Must have missed it.
Díadit Kajay Martatu. Tame Gomoy. Tame very tired. Welcome to the Irish NFL show. For some reason we thought I actually thought it'd be an idea to go live then we're off to the draft, but clearly going well. Have we got one order? Yeah, good timing. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Look at that.
Coffee with coffee with
I think it's a good job you are far away from the two gentlemen at the bottom of the screen, Michael, having organised this for 11 and then having a delivery appear from off screen, the two lads with kids. If the restrictions, when is inter-county travel possible?
I mean, this is a guy that I fondly remember on my television screen when I was in university, late on the Sunday, Monday night. Mike Carson, Iron Mike, the legend of the game over here. How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going fine.
We are indeed. Colin, how are you? What's the crack?
How's it going?
It's going good. Does Brian go up there? I mean, from the Star Tribune reports on the Vikings coming in. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I would say NFL expert after reading that draft guide, but welcome in. Simon, how are you?
Very well, boys. How are you?
But we've another guest now, final guest, the guy that's busy. You can see him already laughing, and I'm worried that there's going to be a trade, so we'll just bring him on very quickly. Cam Inman. Cam, how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And my anxiety of a possible 49er trade is dissipated rapidly compared to what it was on Thursday.
Well, boys, thanks a million for your time. We've done it again. Here we are.
Flon.